It's November the 1st, 2022. It's in the afternoon. So, the hate crimes and the refusal of service, the refusal of admitting what's going on and why it's going on is going to continue, and I'm well aware of that now because I've been dealing with these covens of wickedness. Well, this latest act of genocide began in September of 2018. For those of you who haven't gone in and opened up the documents in the description box, you need to do that. You need to be aware of what's happening to me because it might happen to you. So I'm one of the peculiar people, and I'm peculiar because my eyes see and my ears hear. I'm peculiar because I have characteristics that are not the norm, like knowledge, understanding, wisdom, strength. 2 acts of genocide in less than a decade. Now why? Because I'm one of the righteous, and the righteous have our lives. Well, the wicked are seeking to end the lives of the righteous constantly. Right, so I fired off a letter earlier this morning, and let's see, where did it go? And just let me inform you that I'm not a fan of fiction. I'm not into falsehood. And all of these persons who pretend to be these public service agencies, no, I don't think so. No. But I tell you where this, I'm going to read it to you. Let's see, where did this correspondence go? Well, it went to the AG Minister of BC. It went to the federal coven. It's supposed to be a court in Vancouver. It went to David Eby. It went to Johnny Van Camp. Both of them are indictable crime committing criminals. It went to this thing pretending to be the new BC Attorney General, Murray Rankin. It went to the head of the Coven of Corruption here, pretending to be the Saanich Police, Dean Duffy. It went to this agency that does something about the law enforcement officers who refuse to do their jobs and are racist and commit crimes against members of society. It went to the BC Securities Commission. It went to the Forfeiture Office, BC Forfeiture Office. It went to Scotiabank. It went to Jackie Seabloom from Scotiabank. It went to Corey Lamont from CIBC. It went to the Fraud Department of CIBC. It went to the Client Care Department of CIBC. It went to the Ombudsman of CIBC. It went to Mike Farnsworth. Right, something about there's this public safety ministry in BC. I fucking no idea what they do all day, but I can guarantee you it's got nothing to do with public safety. We've got the Ombudsman for Victim of Crime. That's a federal office. The BC Hate Crime Team. That's the person's pretending to be the BC RCMP. It went to this person from the Canadian Bar Association BC branch. It went to the Canadian Bar Association. It went to another minister in BC. It went to the mayor of Saanich. It went to the Ombudsman, the OBSI, right? They're supposed to oversee the banks in Canada, all of whom are absolutely corrupt. It went to the finance minister of BC. It went to 3 of the criminals from Saanich PD who have attacked me, Francisco Avails, Jeff Bevington, and Mike Duquette. It went to the MLA here in the district of Saanich who absolutely hates me, who has sat by, aided and abetted 2 acts of genocide in less than a decade because of its racism and hatred for me. Isn't that right, Lana Popham? Then we've gone and we've sent this to the Coven of Corruption, absolute incompetence, pretending to be the Professional Conduct Department of the Legal Services, Law Society of BC. What a joke they are. It went to the BC Real Estate Association, Governmental Relations. It went to Bradley Walker, who helped steal my house in the first place after I told it what was happening. It didn't care. Isn't that right, Bradley Walker? It went to Martland, Brock Martland. That's one of these savages who pretended to be the Cullen Inquiry, who when I contacted this thing and told it there was money laundering going on, it didn't care. Because these inquiries are all a joke. A joke. They have nothing to do with stopping money laundering. Nothing. It's just a waste of time and a waste of money. It went to somebody from the Victoria Island real estate branch. It went to somebody else from the real estate branch. It went to Helen and Roger of Jones Company, because their company has involved themselves in an act of genocide and an act of mischief causing danger to my life. Those are both indictable crimes that both carry imprisonment for life, if you're going to pull that off. It went to the Canadian Bar Association. It went to, so there's a president of this Canadian Bar Association. It went to that guy. It went to Kirsten Martin from Martin Homes, who didn't bother to do its job in the first place to find out that that's stolen property, so it can't be sold for the second time. It went to Harman Mangat, CIBC. That thing is guilty of mischief causing danger to my life and an act of genocide. That's life imprisonment. It went to this thing called Tala Khan from CIBC. I talked to that thing. An absolute liar. You know, like all bankers are, absolute liars. It went to a couple of individuals pretending to be Chris Harman. It went to sewer rat Daniel Carroll, genocide committing, mischief committing Daniel Carroll, and it went to Graham Mack, who put its electronic signature on the application and title fraud to steal my house. It went to Hal Hicks, who also is involved in this act of genocide and mischief causing danger to my life, from Fulton Company and Kamloops, and of course then we have to include Chelsea Mack, who's a compulsive liar. Isn't that right, Chelsea? And then it went off to FinTrack, the communications department in FinTrack, which is a federal government agency that's supposed to watch what's going on here in Canada, because money laundering is a real issue. It's a real problem, right? If you don't know what's going on around you, I do. So here we go. Pay attention, criminals of criminal organs tagged. I am a competent, capable of handling my own affairs, woman widowed in 2017. My interest private property was stolen in November 2018 by application title fraud by Rico CIBC large with membership to the Canadian Bar Association, Daniel Carroll, Graham Mack, Hal Hicks, and others of Fulton Company, as well as Lindsay LeBlanc and others of Cox Taylor. And then, of course, I've included all the crimes that they've committed, because you realize, right, that the Criminal Code of Canada applies to all persons and all corporations equally. The law applies to all equally. That's exactly what the Multiculturalism Act of Canada claims. That's its claim to fame. And that's also the claim to fame to the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Right? That all are equal before the law and entitled to equal protection of the law. Oh, really? Among other racists, liars, perjurers, guilty of genocide and mischief causing danger to my life. So then there's some more proof, right? Because that's all I got all day. All day, every day, all I got is proof for you. I don't have any evidence for you. I have proof. And you can't argue proof. You can't get around proof. You're never going to get around proof. So 4 guilty evildoers, criminals of the BC Real Estate Association, have included themselves in 2 fraudulent sales to illegally enrich themselves in the criminal organs they pretend to be. The first 2 reprobate real estate agents, Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon of Jones Company in Victoria, BC, knew my interest private property was being stolen. Yet neither cared. They were committing indictable crimes and facilitating money laundering through BC's wholly corrupt real estate industry. Yeah, oh no, it's corrupt. Yes, it is. Go do your research. Theft of interest private property. There's my address. Aided and abetted money laundering. As 1 year to the day, Asian abominations and illegal possession of my stolen personal chattel and security are fraudulently passing off my property. By guilty of not doing their due diligence, Kirsten Martin of Martin Homes and Greer Jacks of Chris Harman. Listen to how incompetent and ignorant Greer Jacks is. Now, you've gone in and listened to that phone call, haven't you, between myself and Greer Jacks? So what we discovered during that phone call is the persons pretending to be the Law Society of British Columbia are compulsive lying slanderers. And the opinion of a coven posing as the BC Supreme Court is abso-fucking-lutely irrelevant. Irrelevant. And not once have I ever filed a vexatious, frivolous, scandalous, without merit claim in that whorehouse at 850 Burdett Avenue. I'm sorry, that's not what I do. That's not who I am, and I would never do that. So the witch who slandered me, who pretends to be the BC Law Society, you are going to be named. Oh, yes, you are.
Gurjax is going to tell me who you are because you're going to jail. Yeah, I'm your prosecutor. You're a liar. You're a compulsive liar. Just like the witches of the BC Supreme Court are all compulsive liars. The opinion of a witch is irrelevant. Always has been and always will be. Do you understand? Person pretending to be the Lawless Society of BC who told Gurjax to ignore me? Put my emails and my correspondence in the junk box? In the junk mail? Well, it's you who are junk, I'm afraid. Liar. Compulsive liar. Witch. So case in point why I, as expert counsel, never seek legal, because legal is just witchcraft, advice from a racketeering rat called the Canadian Bar Association, as all have proven beyond a reasonable doubt to be vile, ignorant incompetence. Now, Gurjax is so fucking disgusting. It actually thinks that this matter has something to do with the Assurance Fund in BC. No, Gurjax, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid, Gurjax, that your buddies, your partners in crime, Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis, are in possession of stolen property. And the land title to my home is going back in the name of my spouse until I decide otherwise, which is exactly what the trust fund says, if you haven't read it, Gurjax. So many compulsive lying racists acting as BC Supreme Court aided and abetted the embezzlement of my entire estate. Conspiracy to commit murder and hate. These persons are guilty, like others involved, of genocide. Well, that's what they've done. That's exactly what they've done. Be aware, seeing each evildoer involved and or has been informed refuses to lift a finger to reverse this blatant hate crime, I'm taking possession of my stolen security forthwith. So today, I'm going to be collecting all rents due and payable by the trespassers until evicted, as that income, the passive income on that stolen property, belongs to me, the real owner of that property for the last 20 years. I have attended my property repeatedly to collect proof. And then I've got an Instagram post and a couple of BitChute uploads. You know, because now we got a problem with the persons pretending to be YouTube. Yeah, there's a problem. Criminal charges filed against all guilty persons, including Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis, as they have been made aware repeatedly their land title and Scotiabank mortgage is fraudulent, as is Jackie Seabloom of Scotiabank. Been aware for months that that's stolen property. And yet not one of these witches, not one witch involved in this, is going to lift a finger to undo any of this. Because that's the way of the witch. That's the way of the walking dead. That's the way of a child of the devil. I am one of the peculiar people, a righteous living woman. That's why you walking dead evildoers hate me. So seek to end my life. And that's written throughout the DSM. The Diagnostic Statistic Manual. That's what the scriptures are. If you don't know what's going on around you, everyone has their name and life written in the DSM. There's only the righteous and there's only the wicked. There's only two kinds here. Right? If you understand anything, if you're one of the living, you're going to understand that. That's why you need to immerse yourself in the rivers of living water, and you need to eat the bread of life every single day, because you have a part of your being, your spirit, that will exist forever. Forever. Oh, I'm afraid so. Yeah, I'm a preacher and teacher of the gospel of the kingdom of heaven, just like the other peculiar people who were here before me. My brother Jesus told you I was coming. Well, I'm here. And I'm highly fucking expert trained. Yeah, I'm afraid so, motherfuckers. So I hate you evildoers who understand nothing is written in Daniel 12:10. Now, what does Daniel 12:10 say? Because it's so, see, when you're born a child of the devil, your eyes are blind and your ears are deaf. Right? Your native language is compulsive lying. You have three functions. You're a murderer, you're a thief, and you're a destroyer. Now, that's who your politicians are. That's who your ministers are. That's who your mayors are. That's who these things calling themselves councils for these districts and these cities and these townships. That's not a council, that's a coven. It's a coven, all right? So your bar member is a child of the devil. And then that child of the devil then raises through the sewer rat ranks to become, they call themselves the court. Yeah, I don't think so. So as it's written, many will be purified, made spotless and refined. Well, how does that happen? Well, it's war, right? It's constant war. Wickedness against righteousness, that's how you get purified and made spotless and refined. It's not a good time. Trust me, I know. I've been standing in these shoes for close to 50 years. But the wicked will continue to be wicked. Now, why is that? Why do the wicked continue to be wicked? Because they're born that way. There's nothing you can do for them, all right? You don't show kindness to the enemy because they're never going to feel shame. Like, they're never going to get it, ever. They're born to be fuel for the fire. Right? They're born reprobates. They're born compulsive liars. They're witches, right? And a witch seeks to control at all material times. That's what witches do. That's why you know who your politicians are, and who your priests are, and who your ministers are, who your premier is. They're all the same. You know them by their fruit, right? You know them by their fruit, do you not? I do. I have eyes that see and ears that hear. Most of the time, I don't even have to have one of these fucking pukes open their mouth and I know who they are. Because they stink like death. Isn't that right, Jeff Bevington and Mike Duquette? So none of the wicked will understand. But those who are wise will understand. Well, how do you get wise? Well, you have to live in the house of mourning your entire life. I've lived there my entire life, the house of mourning. So I hate you evildoers who understand nothing, as written Daniel 12:10. As much as each of you, lying is your native language, hate me. So it's on like Donkey Kong spawn of Satan. And now there is a righteous hate the wicked, but the wicked hate the righteous, right? So it's not, I'm not the problem, okay? I'm not the problem here. I'm not the problem at all. I've never been the problem. But I am the problem now because I've managed to survive 2 acts of genocide. And they banked on me committing suicide. They banked on it, right? Because that's why the psychological abuse, the satanic ritual abuse is so heavy on me and my family. And the king's will is the judgment of the wicked, right? Because what did my brother taught us all how we pray, right? When my brother taught us to pray, he was praying the 10 commandments. That's exactly what that prayer is. He was praying the 10 commandments. That's what we do. That's what we are. We're the walking, talking way, truth, and life. That's who we are. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, what's the will of the King of Kings? It's written down in the first 5 books of your Bible. That's his will. You don't get to have an opinion on the judgment. Justice is eye for eye, tooth for tooth, fracture for fracture, stroke for stroke. You ain't getting around it. And anything and everything else is witchcraft and injustice. Because you need to make the victim whole at all material times. And the king he covers everything. The King of Kings has left nothing out. He's instructed you how you run everything in your life. If you don't understand. And most of you don't. So, and then we have the rule of law, right to effective access, which is just fucking hilarious, right? That these idiots who understand nothing are writing down crap that they don't even follow. Supreme Court of Canada affirms access to justice and freedom of expression. Really? Right. So then why has well, you have to be over 18 and be signed into YouTube to watch my last upload. It's a restriction. Because they don't like what I'm saying. Yours very truly, isn't that right, reprobate demon Daniel Carroll? See, that's how that liar signs his bullshit. Yours very truly, but it's a compulsive liar, a murderer, thief, and destroyer. So, boy, that's pretty fucking sick, eh? That sewer rat signs his acts of mischief and genocide that way. I mean, that's the mind of the mentally ill. That's the mind of a criminal. So, of course, there was another email that went out. I'm not sure if I've read this to you. Attention covens of public servant incompetence tagged in the notice and demand. So cursed Rico Coven Scotiabank is not going to be collecting one more dime on the fraudulent mortgage held by criminals Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis, doing business as Howe Fam Holdings. They've known since the end of November last year that they're in possession of my stolen property, and yet they're continuing to use my stolen property to make themselves passive income because these two believe that they're above the law. That's the epitome of arrogance. That's the epitome of arrogance, and my father hates the arrogance of abominations like these two, who more than likely own a number of properties in Victoria here, making themselves passive income. More than likely. Yeah, more than likely. Racist Masonic fraternity criminals acting as Saanich law enforcement have been found guilty of aiding and abetting this latest act of genocide against me when they were informed repeatedly my interest private property was being stolen before and after I was violently removed. Yeah, no, you don't think I'm screaming from the mountaintops that I'm being murdered? You have to. You have to say something, or otherwise you're guilty, because your silence is your consent. You know how many times those witches acting as Fulton and Company and Cox Taylor demanded that I signed their act of genocide against me? An act of mischief against me? Because my signature on any of that bullshit would have been my consent, and that's why they don't have my signature once. That's why when the notice of civil claim went in, and 2 satanic rituals were run on me in January and February 2001, they wrote into their satanic ritual abuse that they didn't need my signature to steal another $500 from me after performing an act of genocide and mischief on me by stealing $37 million from me for the 2 acts of genocide that they've committed against me. They are the wicked. And they are not the province of British Columbia, and they are not this BC Supreme Court. They are male and female monsters. That's who they are. They're human, right? Legally defined as monsters. They're not people, all right? People don't get called to the bar. Monsters get called to the bar. So I've got nothing but proof against you all, right? Because now I've got them recorded. Except for one satanic ritual December 10th at about 10 to 9, when there was 2 witches at the door, a male witch and a female witch, threatening me and harassing me, and committing a myriad of indictable crimes. And those 2 witches will be named because they're both going to jail. And I don't need this criminal coven pretending to be the complaints department where you go complain about these assholes to make any recommendations. You have no jurisdiction in this matter at all. And I'm not going to have dozens of fucking absolutely incompetent, ignorant covens acting as public services involved in my life. I've had enough, thank you. I don't associate with the wicked. Okay, and you have no first-hand knowledge of what's been done to me. I'm the victim of the crime. I'm the prosecutor. I'm the prosecutor, and I have every right to prosecute. Every right to prosecute. I have every right. That's my job. That's my duty to do so. Because this is why this lawlessness is right out of control. Because the coven pretending to be the BC Attorney Generals are wholly and completely incompetent. They are vile. And that vile means worthless for those of you who don't understand English. So why am I going to the door last November and saying my house is stolen, and then repeatedly, violently, viciously assaulted? Why? Well, I know why. You better know why, too. As King's Counsel for Foreign Jurisdiction, well, so I'm a foreigner, right? You wouldn't have any jurisdiction if you're from below, would you? Because the peculiar people are from above, and those who are from above are the ones in authority. My brother taught you that when he was here. It sounded nuts when he was here, but let me explain to you. I know both my brother and our father, just like my brother told you I would. Because I was chosen because of the condition of my heart. Wisdom is never going to inhabit an evil heart. It won't. It can't. Just like nothing vile will ever enter the kingdom of heaven. No thanks. That's not the way heaven works, okay? Well, yeah, I'm in fear for my life, right? Because it's pretty obvious what's going on here. I'm not subject to the way of the heathen or the heathen's cursed satanic system of Babylonian bullshit trying to pass itself off as public government services. So if I require files, they got this fucking ridiculous system of FOI applications, freedom of information. I've applied for information before after I was attacked by some puke who stole a whole bunch of property from me. And in that act, they have the right to refuse you that information to protect the criminal who's attacked you. And that's what happened to me. So I'm not playing that little fucking satanic game with you sewer rats trying to pass yourselves off as public fucking servants. Well, because, right, the International Covenant on the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination are crystal clear for those of you who understand nothing, that I have every right to take part in government as well as in the conduct of public affairs at any level and have equal access to public service. So that's unfortunate for you who don't understand your obligation, duty, and responsibilities, right, as a public fucking servant. You have no rights. None. None. When I tell you to do something, when I tell you to fucking jump, you say, how high? How high, Victoria? How high do you need me to jump? Because you putting up roadblocks in front of me so I can't go and hold every single evildoer accountable? That stops right here and right now because I've had enough of you witches and your ugliness. You heathens. You pagans. No hope and no future. So that's why I've said this, right? You've got, I put down the first act of genocide. So I've provided most of the proof I have about my son being kidnapped and then forced into adoption. That's genocide. And now we've got the second act of genocide, right? Well, sure we do. I mean, there's no way around what they've done. So there's a playlist attached to this email. Many, many, many individuals have been taken to hell. You need to figure out where you're making your reservation if you're one of the wicked, because your reservation is sure. And as a woman who has access to the book of life, I know who has their name written in that book, and I know who doesn't, right? Because I'm a witness for the King of Kings. So in a legitimate courtroom, the King of Kings sits there. He never sleeps. He knows all. He has to, right? Because the judge has to have firsthand knowledge of the crime. And then one of his chosen, one of his elect, one of his witnesses sit beside him. Because you always have to have two witnesses. That's why when you go into the fucking whorehouse here, they're commanding that you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because even a witch, even covens of witches have a level of understanding, okay? Right? Because you've gone into this document, right? Like, you've read the proof I have against them. You can't get around it, man. There's not going to be a trial. It goes right from the criminal charge right to the sentencing because you have absolutely no defense. And you can't lie her up because I don't associate with liars. So yeah, the bank, the sewer rats pretending to be CIBC are definitely going to be paying the $3.7 billion in damages, right? And that's why this is all I require is a person pretending to be justice of the peace to put the stamp. And I don't mean the court seal. I'm going to teach you what that court seal is. That demonic, satanic seal from the BC Supreme Court, that bullshit is not going on any of my foreign judgments. I don't know, thank you. You don't know who those things pretending to be royals are, but I do. All right, I do. And I've made a playlist on my YouTube channel that you need to go into and you need to listen to. There's not very many videos in that playlist, but I'm telling you right here, right now, I do not stand under the jurisdiction of the wicked and the wicked's servants. Because if a ruler listens to lies, all of its officials are wicked. And that's exactly what I deal with on a daily basis. So if the justice of the peace can perform a trial, and because these aren't legal proceedings, these are lawful proceedings, all that individual, all that person's going to be doing is just putting the stamp, the file stamp, the court stamp, on the documents, because this is not rocket science. The truth is very simple, right? Because this is what they did, right? They committed genocide. Twice. They forced me into prostitution against my will. That's genocide. I was repeatedly violently assaulted. That's genocide. You displaced me from my stolen property by violent force. Genocide, intentional wounding me repeatedly, and you're still doing it, right? Because now you're just going to all fucking scatter like the cockroaches that you actually are. And when they embezzled the entire inheritance and then kept trying to extort money from me to do a process I'm not required to do, that's genocide, declaring no necessaries of life. And I went in and I fought for that repeatedly. So, seizing and destroying untouchable and trust private property. Well, the trust is crystal clear that you can't do that to me, but you did it anyway, right? Genocide. Employing poisonous, vexatious, frivolous, malicious, scandalous, without merit, BC Supreme Court petitions. Poisonous, fraudulent, BC Supreme Court orders. Constituting, employing, asphyxiating, noxious gases from the mouths of hundreds of compulsive liars. In the latest act of war, genocide, barratry, and blasphemy to murder, to steal from and destroy me. Well, that's the legal definition of genocide. And that's exactly what they've done and exactly why they did it. So when you're guilty, you go to jail for life. Like, you're not getting around it. You don't have any defense. Because all the proof is on the court records. They recorded these acts of genocide against me because I kept going into the whorehouse, right? So what's the punishment for hate crime in Canada? Well, there is no minimum punishment, right? It's those BC Supreme Court witches who aided and abetted the theft of my house and the embezzlement of my estate. Those aren't private conversations. They're public servants. Those hate crimes are public. The court is supposed to be a public service. It's supposed to be, or that's what they pretend it is, but we all know it's not. We all know that those fucking whorehouses trying to pass themselves off as courthouses are privately owned. Covens of murderers, thieves, and destroyers. Perverts. That's who sits up there on that Masonic, Talmudic, Kabbalistic bench. That's what that is. Listen to me, the dead don't rise above the living, thanks. And if I do go in there, and I am going in there, that person pretending to be the justice of the peace, we look at each other eye to eye. You're not rising onto any satanic Masonic altar to look down on me. No thanks. No, you're there to serve me according to my culture, which is my right. And that's your duty, obligation, responsibility, and that's exactly what's going to end up happening. Because I'm not putting up with this racism and this ugliness and this corruption and incompetence anymore. I've had enough. So the Globe and Mail, right? They're trying to tell you that the lawyers are rats. That's what they are. They're criminals. They're criminals, and they're all one. Right? They're all one. They all think the same. They all talk the same. They all act the same. They're one. That's why you don't associate with any person who has membership to the Bar Association, whether BC or Canadian. You don't. They're incompetent. They're ignorant. Their minds just spin on stupid, which is exactly what you heard when I called Greer Jacks. That's what you heard. If you have ears that hear. Because, right, the BC Provincial Court, it's rat-infested. Just like the province of British Columbia, it's rat-infested, all right? It's run by reprobates. Well, the law is the law, right? The law is the law. So, right, I'm sorry, but Melissa Gillespie, you were informed that there was an act of genocide going on. And what did it do? What did it do? Because I have a letter that it claims is private and confidential. Melissa Gillespie, you're not private. You're a public servant. And the Court of British Columbia is not confidential. It's a public service, Melissa. So the letter you sent me is neither private nor confidential, and you aided and abetted a crime. Indictable crime, Melissa. Yeah, you did, Melissa. I'm afraid so, Melissa. Now let's look and see here. Because what you need to understand about these covens of corruption is their claim to fame is that they pretend to be against what they're actually aiding and abetting. Like the Ministry of Children and Family Destruction, right, in BC here. They have nothing to do with protecting children and developing families. They do the exact opposite of that. I know. I'm a victim of them, and so is my baby. Highly marketable baby. This is the Law Society of BC website. Never believe what the enemy says. Never believe anything the enemy says. This is why they have these websites full of lies. What you need to do is you need to pay attention to their actions, because their actions tell you who they are. That's just like the District of Saanich here. Have you gone onto their website and seen all the lies that they tell? Every single thing that those who pretend to be the District of Saanich pretend to do and be on their website, they do the exact opposite. Isn't that right, Mayor? And the coven pretending to be the District of Saanich Council. So anti-money laundering, no, because we've all gone into the proof and we've seen the letters I received from the savages pretending to be the BC Law Society when I said, Daniel Carroll's stealing my house and there's a problem here.
Oh, we don't see any problem. There's no problem here.
Well, fuck, of course not, eh? Because you're fucking all on the same team. You're all fucking one mind, right? Of course you are. Of course you are. And why didn't a sewer rat pretending to be the Law Society of BC sign that letter? Oh, you're gonna fucking sign the letters. Oh, yeah, you are. Anti-money laundering, no, they're not, no. They're the ones behind it all. Because Demon David the evildoer Evie also knew that this was happening and refused to step in and do something. So aiding and abetting, right? Aiding and abetting. So here we've got the BC real estate website here. Anti-money laundering. No, I'm afraid they're all about money laundering. Yeah, no, I'm afraid so. That's why, Bradley Walker and J.U. knew that my home was being stolen. And there was another real estate agent named Miles who first was going to perform the act of genocide. And when I informed Miles that this is trust property, it can't be stolen from me, Miles very, very wisely decided to step away from the crimes that were happening. So then Daniel Carroll of Fulton Company and Kamloops had to go find another fucking retard, another absolute savage, pretending to be the BC Real Estate Association, a real estate agent for them, to perform that act of genocide and mischief, causing danger to my life. And they were informed, because we've all gone in and read the proof, haven't we? Yeah, of course we have. I've got nothing but proof. So I'm not going to continue to live with no money and allow Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis to use my stolen property to make themselves fraudulent income, fraudulent passive income, using a fraudulent land title and a fraudulent mortgage. Because that's a crime. That's a fucking crime, and they're not above the law. And they won't be liaring up because the liar doesn't have any first-hand knowledge of what's going on. And because we know that Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis are liars, they'll be telling their lies to another liar. So that's hearsay. And I have freedom of association. I have right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. So I tell you what, those who are called to the bar are not a peaceful assembly. And when you're dealing with a coven of bar members, that's also not a peaceful association. No, they're not. If you've ever dealt with them, you know exactly what they are. Right? They're sowing the wind and they're going to reap the whirlwind. Because there's nothing peaceful about a liar. There's nothing peaceful about a liar's association. Nothing. There never has been and there never will be. So this is a problem, right? Like, no, I'm afraid that it is, okay? And I'm not going to be putting up with this. Right? Because we've got hundreds of children of the devil trying to end my life. And so I also included some, because what's happening is, I'm an authority. I'm the woman who owns the house. I've owned that house for 20 years. That property has been in my family for 20 years. It's settled land. It's settled. It's settled. I'm afraid, sir, Mayor of Saanich, covenanting as the Council of Saanich, coven pretending to be law enforcement in Saanich, MLA of Saanich, Lana Papama. So what's happening right now is we've got obstruction of a peace officer. Because we all saw me go to my house. We all saw me deliver eviction notices. We all saw me do this. I mean, come on. We all saw, right? We're all witnesses to what's going on here. So what's happened is, date and time and location of offense. Well, we've got the trespassers and their partners in crime here, who were supposed to vacate the last weekend of October. Nope. Just going to pretend like I don't exist, right? And like you're not committing crime. So they're guilty. The trespassers and Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis are guilty. They're accused. Well, I'm not accusing you. You're guilty. You willfully have obstructed what I must do. I must do this. I don't have a choice in doing this because pretty obviously, there's not one witch in BC here acting as a public servant who's going to do anything to undo this. They're not going to do anything to undo this. I know this has been happening now for almost 3 years I've been out of my house. And no, I don't need to go into the whorehouse at 850 Burnett Avenue and put my land title back, right? I don't need to go talk to another coven of witches because this is no longer about that matter. This is now criminal. This is now a criminal matter. And every single person involved in this criminal matter is going to be charged criminally, and they're going to jail. But that's law, right? Sorry, that's legal. That's according to the legal rules. According to the law, well, I'm afraid we're going to be attending your doctor's office, aren't we? So I can witness your application for assisted suicide, which is very much legal in Canada, and it's encouraged in Canada. Well, because, go read Exodus 22:18. Please go read Exodus 22:18, right? Because that's the law. And if the King of Kings is determined by your behavior that you are a witch, according to Exodus 22:18, Leviticus 20:27, and Deuteronomy 18:10, right? And since Canada is so wonderful and now providing assisted suicide to those with no hope and no future, that's where this is going. Because I have the right. I have the right to practice my own culture here. So saith the International Covenant on the elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. The wicked are the ones causing your global warming, by the way, because they're pissing off my father. They're enraging my father, and that's what heats up this whore of Babylon. So listen to me. So these guilty individuals, they all know that I'm the owner of that property. They all know. They've known for a year that I'm the owner of that property. So you have no defense. So I'm in my lawful execution of duty to remove the trespassers. That's my lawful execution of duty. This is not a legal execution of duty. It's the law. I'm in my lawful execution of duty to remove them. You get out, or your rents are due and payable to me, and we'll be moving forward until you're gone. Because those two are not going to collect one more dime. Because if they continue to use my property for criminal activity, which is what they're doing, right? How is that helpful to anyone? How is that helpful to any widow who's having her house stolen? Because this is happening twice a week in Canada. A widow's having her house stolen. Because we can see the behavior of CIBC here, right? They block me. They ignore me. You've gone in and heard the calls I've had. Did you go in and heard that call with Corey Lamont? I was threatened, violated, assaulted by Corey Lamont, right? Because they think they're going to get away with this. And here we've had Lana Popham block me. Now, why would that witch do that to me? Well, because it's guilty of aiding and abetting 2 acts of genocide, and Lana Popham's on its way to jail. Aren't you, Lana? Yeah, because I don't have a choice, right? I must speak. I must speak the truth to the wicked, whether the wicked listen or the wicked fail to listen, right? I have to say something because that's what holds them guilty. That's what holds them accountable. And those in rebellion to the truth are witches, for those of you who don't understand, right? Because I belong to the peculiar people. We're a persecuted people. So persecution is the crime that's defined as severe discrimination that results in the denial or infringement of fundamental rights. Well, I have the fundamental right to raise my son in the manner that I see fit. He was never in harm's way or in danger in my care, ever. And he never would have been. Well, so I have every right to own that property because it was gifted to me by my spouse. It's in-trust private property. And you can't just come in and steal in-trust private property by way of application and title fraud and then embezzle the entire estate, leaving me homeless and destitute, and then demanding I file a probate that I'm never going to file, and I was never required to file it in the first place. But you see, you want to extort and embezzle some more money, right? Because the way of the witch is to worship Mammon, right? To serve Leviathan, right? Currency. You get that? So what's happening is we've got a soft murder going on, right? Because I've got hundreds of witches acting as public servants. They're part of the organized stalking that's happening to me. It happened to my brother, too, when he was here. There was organized stalking going on. So it's a slow death by assassination from co-conspirators, and it's achieved by a continuous stream of soft blows to both the individual's body and mind, as well as their environment. So defamation by slander, well, you heard the call with Greer Jacks. Some witch acting as the BC Law Society is slandering me. I was slandered by witches acting as the BC Supreme Court. I've been slandered by the coven in Kamloops called trying to pass itself off as Fulton and Company. Slander is murder, for those of you who don't understand. Slander is murder. Yes, it is. Yeah. Isolation by rejection, well, right. Demoralization by bullying, yeah. Every attack by every single Saanich PD pig. They came to bully and intimidate me so I can't go home. And so now I'm off my property and it's being destroyed for another year by toxic contaminant trespassers. Destabilization by unemployment and despair by complete poverty and loneliness. Well, there you go. That's exactly what's happening to me, right? I mean, come on. Peculiar people are victims of, government's the beast, right? Organized stalking by numerous perpetrators targeting the victim with the goal of causing suicide, homelessness, or admission to a mental health institution. Now, why would Francisco Avails and another female come into my home and attack me and assault me when I'm trying to explain to them my house is being stolen? And what do? Instead of helping me and going after the criminals like Bradley Walker called them to have me assaulted and violated and as kidnapped from my home. Didn't you, Bradley? You don't think I know, Puke? In fact, listen, I know it all. There's nothing I don't know. That's one of my characteristics is knowledge. So what happens? So they haul me off to a mental institution. Yeah, that's where I went. That's where I spent a night. And I was not listened to again. I was just fucking violently assaulted. And then I'll never forget. Okay, so Francisco Avails, because it doesn't want to do anything that night of its shift, right? That's why it kidnapped me. It sat there all night long doing absolutely nothing. After I sat in a room with that thing and told it what had been happening to me, you know what its answer was? Well, maybe you should call the media. Well, no, Puke, maybe you should do your fucking job, you fucking satanic piece of shit. Maybe you should do your fucking job. Maybe you should open your fucking ears. Left me in a room, fucking as bright as fucking Costco, took off, left me there, right? No blanket, no food, no nothing. I finally had to get up and leave that room, and then I was forced to try to sleep in a chair in the lobby. I didn't sleep a wink. So Francisco leaves after its shift is over, right? And because they'd kidnapped me, another member of the fucking Saanich PD was forced to drive me home. I'll never forget what she said to me. I don't know why she walked me to the door. She walks me to the door of my house and she says, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call us. Are you fucking joking? Like, are you mocking me too? So you're mocking me too. You're mocking me because why would you say that to me? Why would you say, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call us? Why would you say that? Is this a fucking joke? Is this some sort of fucking satanic joke? Is this a fucking nightmare I don't wake up from? Why would you say that to me? You'd be the last motherfuckers I would call. You've involved yourselves in repeated acts of genocide and mischief, causing actual danger to my life. And you walk me to the door? And that's what you say? Are you kidding? Oh my God. You see what I mean? Like, listen, I don't tell lies. I don't have any lies to tell you, okay? That's what she said to me. I'll never forget it. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call us. Yeah. Fuck yeah, you'll be the first motherfuckers I call. No. Fucking sick. Listen, I'm hated by this world, okay? There's no way for me to get out of that. Because I know what evil is, and because I have to say something. This shit's never gonna stop for me. This has been going on for 5 decades. I was hated by my mother, who tried to break my spirit. She wanted to take my son. She was the one who called the coven, the MCFD coven here, and had my baby taken away. You just don't get it, do you? You just don't fucking get it, do you? Oh my God. You hate me? Oh, fucking great. Join the fucking club. Because there are hourly meetings at the corner of Fuck You Street and Kiss My Ass Boulevard. You're going to hell. Like, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do for you. If you hate me, it's because you hate the one who sent me here. And he knows who you are. And he's not a fan. Okay? And I'm an INFJ personality type. And that stands for, I'm not fucking joking. That's what that stands for. So when we speak, you need to listen. Because your life depends on it. Now I gotta fucking deal with this shit again this afternoon. I gotta go to my house at 6 o'clock. And fucking what am I gonna face when I go there? What, everyone's gonna have scattered like fucking cockroaches? As usual? I mean, seriously? Because what I don't think I did is I don't think you were able to get a clear understanding of what I said. I dropped off a letter yesterday at my house. Attention Benjamin House, Senator Dennis, and toxic trespassers continuing to illegally occupy to cause irreparable harm and damage to stolen by application title fraud untouchable interest private property. You've been repeatedly informed this property is the stolen security of a widow who has owned this property since January 2003, and the woman identifying as a peace officer acting in authority demanding full peaceful association in your cooperation of forced eviction. As required, trespassers must provide your legal names, forwarding addresses before you vacate. Each trespasser, well, you have to face criminal charges, right? Like, because here's what's happened since the last time. They have now, the other trespassers that were there before are now gone, and now there's new trespassers on that property. And Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis, that means that they have put up advertisements on social media. They put up advertisements in social media knowing full well that that's stolen property so they can continue to make passive income illegally for Howe Fam Holdings, right? Well, so you're guilty of mischief causing danger to my life, along with there has to be claim for civil damages, as the case against you is proven beyond reasonable doubt. Ignorance of the law and this very serious situation causing me intentional harm is no excuse. Go into the Criminal Code of Canada. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You can't use that. You know where they got that? They got that from The Way, the Truth, and the Life. That's written in The Way, the Truth, and the Life. That your ignorance is not an excuse. The King of Kings don't care if you don't get it. You're still going to be held guilty. You don't give a fuck. You're supposed to know. That was your job while you were here, living your life, is to go in and understand the law and what your requirements are. To love the truth more than you love anything else, and then to love your neighbor like you love yourself. And we are living in an age, because it's completely lawless, there is no love anymore anywhere. None. I know, I experience it every fucking minute of every fucking day. So, November 26, 21, proof this property is stolen was continuously provided to Kirsten Martin and Greer Jacks, who didn't perform their required professional due diligence when the first agents put up my thieved property for fraudulent sale. Persons trespassing along with partners in indictable crimes, Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis, have intentionally refused to cooperate with the lawful directions of a peace officer performing my lawful execution of duty and following clear, concise instructions dropped off at my stolen property October the 28th. For your immediate forced eviction under my full supervision during the last weekend in October. I have to supervise them, because they're going to damage my property because of the rage that they're going to have for being forced to leave. And once the criminal commits the crime, I mean, the jerk-off system, the circular thinking jerk-off system begins, right? And then it takes how many fucking months to do something that should take literal days to do, because you've got a heathen hamster wheel of go nowhere system in place because monsters set it up. Male and female monsters set up this system of fucking go nowhere. Billable hours, right? In refusing to cooperate moving forward, all rents due and payable by trespassers must and will be collected by the true owner of the property, and that's myself. Full amount for November is due Tuesday, November 1st, no later than 6 p.m. in respectful cooperation and peace. These two, Senator Dennis and Benjamin Howe, are not going to be collecting passive income using my stolen interest property, as their land title and their mortgage from the beginning is based on fraud and theft. Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis, you're doing yourselves no favors, as I am the beyond competent woman who has full disclosure of the crimes of CIBC, along with others, which you're required to bring action for damages against guilty corporations who are stealing mortgage-free property twice a week from the vulnerable across Canada to facilitate over $100 million annually in fraudulent mortgages by RICO-Val racist bankers. Stop being evildoers. In-person interactions will be recorded for my safety and for the cases being built against you. And then I provide my email address. So are you just going to continue to ignore what you're doing? You're just going to continue to ignore what's happened? Because that proves that you're children of the devil, right? That proves that you're children of the devil. And I'm not going to be putting up with that anymore. Let me show you something else here. And here's what happens when an act of genocide is going on. Right? Because when you're talking about let me show you something. So this is the writ of possession that the covenant of corruption, and here Daniel Carroll's name is on this. This is a desk order after they've committed the genocide. Now they're commanding other criminals. Here's the court seal on it with that demonic satanic emblem. You are commanded? You are also commanded? Who are they commanding? Well, they're commanding these persons pretending to be the sheriff who are involving themselves in indictable crime. And do you see the signature on this? Writ of possession? That's not a signature. That's not a signature. I need to be able to determine which one of the members of the registry at Supreme Court of BC signed this order to commit genocide and mischief causing actual danger to my life. And yet that's not a signature. That's not a signature at all. Any fucking sewer rat could have put that on there. And now look at, and now here's the last page of that writ of possession again. You can't make out the person who signed. You can't make out the person pretending to be the registrar on this genocide order. That's a crime. Whoever signed this order is guilty of genocide and mischief causing danger to my life, and they're going to go to jail. Which one of you signed this order? Because that's not a signature. Any fucking piece of shit could have fucking scribbled that on there. A 2-year-old could have scribbled that on there. And lawyer for petitioner, that's also not a signature. That's also not a signature. So how did the court seal get on this? And how did the sheriff show up at the door to commit genocide and mischief? Because we know their names. Hey, Peter? And some arrogant Asian abomination was there committing this act of genocide and mischief. You're both going to jail. You're both guilty. You need to find out what's going on, right? Because ignorance of what's going on is not an excuse that you're going to be using, and you can't liar up because I don't deal with liars. You knew what you were doing because I told you what you were doing when you came to the door. You had no business being there. You should have seen how incompetent these idiots are and were at my house. Not a fucking clue. Not a clue, which is why most of the personal chattel got left behind. Things I can never replace, including my little boy's room and all his furniture and all of his toys. Have you ever gone and witnessed any woman who's lost her child? They have the room of their child identical as when they lost their baby. Yeah, I'm afraid so. So, yeah, this is fucking bullshit and this is over, and I have fucking way